Hello and welcome to Abbitt Media. I'm Grant Abbitt, and today we're looking at how we can create things like moss and snow onto our textures using the Separate RGB node. Now I'm putting this into my playlist called Nodes for Noobs or Node School. Although I haven't put a level on this, it comes after level 8, so do make sure you've looked at those previous videos up to level 8 to make sure that you understand everything that's going into this. Do check out the description and the playlists on this channel for other courses, and check out my website, which has them all listed and categorized in a much easier format. Okay, so to start off with, I want to create a rock to put some moss onto. I'll delete the default cube, and I've got a special add-on which makes it really easy to add rocks. If you go to Edit, Preferences and Add-ons, and type in Mesh, and make sure Add Mesh Extra Objects is ticked. Then close this down. When you press Shift A now, under the Mesh menu, you've got the rock generator. I can press Add Rock, and that adds a rock for me. That looks good. We can add a couple, and I'll just move them off to the side next to each other. The rock generator does add auto smooth to them. I don't think it works myself, so I like to switch that off. If you select all of them and come down to the object data properties, under the normals, if you Alt click on the auto smooth, that will turn off the auto smooth for all the objects. These two are really similar, so I might just add a couple more for variation. And let's just separate them out so we can easily see what's going on. Okay, so I'll start working on this one and set up my shader. So across to the shading workspace at the top here, I'll zoom in on the object with period key on my numpad, just come around to the side here, and set up a new shader for it. We'll call this Rock with Moss. And let's zoom out so I can see it, and we'll pull this up so I've got more space down the bottom here. So in order to do this, we need to set up two materials on our object, one moss and one rock, and we need to create a mask that says, for the top of the rock, I want the moss texture, and for the bottom of the rock, I want the rock texture. So I'll show you how to set up the mask first. So Shift A to add, and down to converter, we've got the Separate X, Y, Z, or Z if you're American. I'll click on that and bring it over to the side here. Now for this to work properly, we need the texture coordinates. So Shift A to add, input and texture coordinates. And let's just plug in the generated for now. I'll Control Shift left click on that to see the results. Now for that to work, you need the node Wrangler installed, and then you can see your different nodes by holding down Shift, Control and left clicking, and it sets up this viewer node for you. If you haven't got that, go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons and type in Node and make sure the node Wrangler is ticked. Then close this box down. So I press Control Shift left click on my Separate XYZ node, and that's put it through the viewer node so I can see what's going on. So it's showing me the X-axis first, so the X-axis going along this way, and you can see it's going slightly darker there to lighter over here. Let's increase that effect by adding in a color ramp, so Shift A to add, converter color ramp, and we'll put that in the middle here, and then we can bring the black up and bring the white in, and you can see that happening across here. Now we want it to go up and down, so we'll use the Z instead. Therefore we've got the black and then the white. So you can imagine if this is a snow texture at the top, it will look like snow, and at the bottom it will look like our rock. So we've already got our mask set up and ready to go. However, if I move these across to the side slightly and create some space, if I use the normals and plug those into the vector, we get a slightly different effect, and it's slightly more effective because it's actually taking into account the shape of the rock as well, and its normals of course. And I think this is a much better looking result because we get sort of that natural look. So using the normals will be more effective, and we can edit this as we see fit, and we'll play with that more when we've got the textures in. So what we need now is our textures. I've gone across to textures.com and I'm using this Rainforest Mossy Rock pack. It's a PBR texture, and I'm using the color, normals and roughness. You can actually use the displacement if you're using cycles as well, and that can look really great. But I'm keeping it simple for now, but it's the same process. I'm also using this boulder base Mossy here. And again, the color, normal and the roughness. Okay, so a challenge to you then is to set up those two materials. So you're going to have two principled BSDFs, one with the Mossy texture and one with the boulder texture. So pause the video and have a go at that. Okay, so I'll show you how I would create that. I'll scroll this up slightly, click on my principal BSDF, and there's a really great shortcut with the node Wrangler, Control Shift T. That will bring up your file browser. I'll click on my boulder Mossy, select all three of them, and click the button Principal Texture Setup. And that creates a principled BSDF for me. So if I press G to grab, you can see it's framed them as well and plugged them into the principled BSDF that I had selected. It's using the UV coordinates though, so if I Control Shift left click on this, we'll see at the top here, something's gone very wrong, that it should have changed to the rock texture, but it seems like it's put the normal in the wrong place. So we can just check these, the roughness there and the normal there. Not sure why it's done the normal twice. I can just change that here, so open the image and click on the albedo this time. And let's just change that to generated and see what it looks like. Okay, it's not looking too bad, but it's got that flat shading. And you can see here the flat shading if I zoom in a bit. I'll just move this across so you can see it a bit more easily. So we need to change that flat to box for each of them. Box here as well, and down the bottom here for our normal to a box as well. It's looking a bit better. In fact, that's looking great. I was expecting more of a seam and having to put the blend up, but it seems really quite nice and seamless. Okay, so I can do the same for my moss. Shift D to duplicate this. Hopefully it'll work this time. So click on that and Control Shift T. Let's find our moss this time. And albedo, roughness and normal. I've got the height there as well if I wanted to use the displacement, but again, that's for another video. So principled texture setup, click that. I press G to grab to move it down so we can see it. And let's just see if this is actually working by Control Shift left clicking. It looks like it is, but I've just got to plug the generated in this time. And yes, it's working this time. So we've got to change these to box again. And that's not looking too bad either. We can see a seam there, so I might change the blend to something like 0.1 for each of these. 0.1 and 0.1. You should only need a tiny bit of blend, and too much blend can look a little bit strange at times. So that looks pretty good. We've got our mossy rock. Let's zoom out. Mossy rock here, and Control Shift left click. Rocky rock there. And we want to use our color ramp to blend between the two. Okay, your second challenge then is to try and make that happen. So remember, this is a mask. The black will control one of these and the white will control the other. So try and hook that up together and see how you get on. Pause the video and have a go at that. Okay, so hopefully you remembered. If I bring this out slightly, I can mix these two together. Using the node wrangler, it's nice and easy. I can Control Shift, right click and drag, and it creates a mix shader for me. That's great. I'll bring that up to the top. And we want to plug in our color from here. And we plug that into the factor. The factor is saying take the black bits from this texture and apply it to the bottom one, and the white bits and apply it to the top one. If you need the rocky one on top, you can obviously just switch them over here if they're the other way around for you. Okay, it's sort of getting there, but we need a bit of editing on our color ramp. So I can bring the white back a bit more to create more moss, as you can see on the top there. And I could probably go further back with the black and get some more moss in there. And we've got a sort of mossy top to our rock. Let's bring it further back. And if you're unsure exactly how far this is going, you can Control Shift left click and see the results you have. That seems to look quite good. So Control Shift left click on the mix shader. Takes a second to update, and we've got our rocky, mossy material. I'll bring this down now and I'll add that to the other ones. So I'll select on each of these, select on this last, and Control L to link my materials to that one. So Control L, link materials. And now they all have that material. Now it does matter if I take this one and want to flatten it out and rotate it. It does actually make a difference to the coordinates, because if I press N on my keyboard, it has been rotated here, and this is taking into account the local coordinates, not the global coordinates. So in order to rectify that, I need to apply my rotation. So Control A, you can apply your rotation, that will put that back to 0, and then this will make more sense. So hopefully you found that useful. Do remember to check out the playlists and my website for more useful information like this, and also comment with any thoughts and ideas you might have on this video or others. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.